Is your small business growing? That's the question we address right here on the Grow Your Biz Show. This is a place where I interview strategic entrepreneurs who can help you to navigate your niches, perfect your pitches, and grow your business. Hi, I'm Paul Madsen, host of the program, and this is episode number 61. And so glad you joined us today. I'm so happy because I'm thrilled because we have Dave Vanna in the house. Dave, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Paul. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. I'm so glad you made time. Dave is a innovator and an entrepreneur and a consultant, a lot of different things. We'll tell you all about that as we go along. Dave, I'm just going to jump right in and ask you the question I often start with, and that is, what business are you in? What benefits do you provide out there in the community?
Paul, I like to tell people that I solve problems. I've always been a puzzle solver, and I've always liked to solve problems, and I help people who are in the startup realm who are primarily dealing with technology. I help them build their businesses. I provide consulting to them. I've consulted with a number of different businesses in that fashion.
You've indeed been a part of a key part of several stories in the community for many years of exciting startups and exciting growth stories as well. And so the value you bring, I guess, take it. One or two of your companies right now. What do you bring? What do those companies bring to their customers?
Well, currently I'm working with two different startups. One company is H3C. It's a company that provides chronic care management, chronic coordination to Medicare patients. We have an operations center staffed with nurses and CNAs who reach out to chronically ill patients on a monthly basis, check in with them to see how they're doing, reconcile their medications, arrange appointments for them. That sort of business.
Sure.
So I'm serving as the CTO for that company.
Okay. Chief Technology Officer, in case some people don't know what that is. The CTO, you're serving as that for the people.
Yeah. So
what differentiates? I mean, what's unique about your business that helps you have hope for the future here?
Well, we have an expertise in call centers, and so we're taking that call center expertise and we're applying it to healthcare, and we need to do it in a very efficient and effective manner in order to be successful. So I'm involved in making sure that all the technologies play well together and that they serve our nurses and our CNAs.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, and Omaha's a great place for having that the teleservices infrastructure, isn't it? Lots of talent around here.
Absolutely.
Been some great stories with how that all goes down.
And in fact, a few of the founders of this company have had a number of successes in the in that business.
This is the place for that. Yeah, it makes sense. I worked as a recruiter once on a contract basis for a company that moved to Omaha to do a call center type thing, and we came to Omaha because of the call center infrastructure we have here. So
yeah, absolutely.
I can see that. Well, why is it you're in this business? Why is it you're doing that kind of a industry?
Well, I'm specifically working with H3C because the CEO of the company knew me from a prior engagement, and he asked me to come help him out.
Sure.
But why I'm in the business of helping startups and working in technology is it's because, first of all, I love it. I love working with technology, and I love creating order out of chaos, and that's kind of what the
well, that's what startups are all about, right?
Absolutely.
And especially the smaller ones, you have to wear 1,000 hats. I think you have a dozen you wear at different points in time, and wear them well, right?
Yeah. Well, I would like to think so, but you're exactly right. I've been involved in all aspects of the business, from accounting and finance to marketing, sales, production, product management, manufacturing. If you name it, I've done it.
Right. Well, that's it. That's what you need in that environment a lot of times. What differentiates a H3C from anybody who does a similar kind of thing?
Well, first of all, it's a relatively new business. It was primarily enabled by a new reimbursement code that the CMS put down that allows for reimbursement for this type of service.
Okay. Gotcha.
Basically, the whole idea is what we're trying to do is keep people out of the hospitals,
Right,
okay,
right, yeah.
and identify issues before they happen.
Well, and that's part of your why too. We can manage your startup mentality with helping people and helping people live healthier lives. It sounds like.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. Well, you've been with a few other companies along the way. Tell us some tales about other startups. I mean, our audience is are entrepreneurs or want-to-be entrepreneurs who are maybe looking for an idea, or maybe some small company who's already started and they're wondering, you know, how do I get to that next level? I mean,
Sure.
Tell us some speed bumps you've hit along the way with that.
Yeah, so before I get to the speed bumps, maybe I should tell you a little bit about one of the other companies
Please
I'm
do,
working with.
yeah.
Okay, so the name of the company is LifeLink Plus.
LifeLink Plus.
I founded it with my partner in that company.
Okay.
And LifeLink Plus was an idea. I was working with a behavioral health clinic here in Omaha, and we were working on some process efficiencies, working on a few different things, and I asked him, I said, what's the biggest challenge you face? And he said, it's losing patients between visits. So we thought about that. We said, you know, well, here's a problem, and it's a real serious problem.
Right.
What can we do to help him solve this problem?
Right.
And we came up with the idea of a technology platform that could manage and monitor those people between those visits, and paired with outreach by clinical staff from our operations center, checking in with them to see how they're doing between those visits.
Well, and that's pretty valuable to, I suppose, the clinics that are treating patients, and that kind of follow-up is what you're saying. I never really thought about it that way, the loss of the patient. I've had plenty of healthcare scenarios in my life, and I can see how that would be very critical.
Yes, and again, the idea is to identify those issues before they become a real problem, and getting help to that patient before that happens.
Early detection type thing, and
absolutely,
yeah, keep them on their treatment plan and so on, huh? And whose idea was it to marry technology with this kind of? I mean, tell us about the inspiration for this company.
Sure. So I mean, the inspiration was literally that. It was that conversation with that doctor. Yes, and since I'm a technologist and I'm always looking for opportunities to apply technology to a problem, that we immediately thought along those lines. We thought to ourselves, how can we use technology to help this doctor solve this problem of losing these patients between visits?
Sure. Well, that's a real life lesson there, friends, because it's an everyday thing, going to the doctor, having a treatment, having a follow-up plan. What scenarios can you see in your life? What questions can you ask to just an everyday thing going on, and come up with an idea? And Dave and his partner came up with an idea after a conversation with the doctor.
Absolutely.
And you married what you knew and what you had going on with in your mind and in your experience to a solution for them.
Yep.
And how old is this company now?
Well, the company itself is about 9 months old.
Okay, wow.
It was actually germinated inside of another company, and then we spun it out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we developed a prototype for the product. We put it out in the field and we tested it on a number of patients and got feedback. And we went back and refined our feature and functionality list and the process. And now we're reaching out to a number of different insurance companies, clinics, behavioral health clinics, addiction centers, and getting feedback from them.
The medicine is full of so many niches that you can really go crazy with it once you prove your offering, right?
Yes, exactly. And you know, we feel like one of the things I really like about it is, you know, I feel like we can really make a difference also. You know, the opioid addiction crisis is a problem that you know, we're all well aware of. There are over 50 people who die each day of an opioid overdose.
I had no idea it was that big.
Yeah, there's 3.3 million people who are opioid addicts. It is really a problem.
Well, and your solution speaks to that, and
absolutely.
That goes to your why also, that you're trying to make the world a better place for the technology and the offerings that you guys put together.
Yes, most of the, obviously we like to feel like, every endeavor that we get involved in we're also helping to improve society, and I feel that way. But I feel like what we're working on right now, on actually both of the healthcare companies I'm involved in, we are really making a difference in people's lives, and that's important to me.
Well, that's terrific. It's so important to have the why figured out.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise things might just blow away. If it's just, I want to make a lot of money, well, I don't think that's going to necessarily be an ongoing, sustaining thing. Buyers, your customers, want to know what's going on, what's behind the scenes.
Yeah. And
speaking of which, we're both in our 30s, wink, wink, and there's some time. I just want to speak to the whole thing about. They say luck is the intersection of opportunity and preparedness, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, you were prepared to bring this solution to market because of what? How many different startups? How many different track records? How many different kinds of things had you been part of that made you ready? I want to help the viewers to know maybe I am ready for that big idea, and they just don't know it. So what made you ready for LifeLink Plus?
Well, I guess I guess I would say that it's all the battle scars. Paul. And I have as many as anybody does. And there are lessons that you learn with each new endeavor that you get involved in. Yeah. The key is, I coached softball for 15 years, and it's amazing how much softball applies to the startup world.
Never thought about it that way.
Yeah, but one of the things that I always used to tell my players is, first of all, softball is a game of failure. Okay? If you have a 300 batting average, that means you're failing 7 out of 10 times when you go up to the plate.
Okay.
So the important thing is not whether or not you're going to fail, because you will fail. There will be failures. It's how you respond to those failures. That's the important thing. Okay. And I always told my softball players, you need to think about those failures, those strikeouts, just long enough to learn everything you need to learn about what you did wrong, and then move on and focus on how you can improve yourself and how you can make yourself better.
Sure.
That's what I've tried to do in my career with all of the failures, all my mistakes that I've made along the way, just to try to learn from those and become better for it.
Well, I like the softball analogy a lot because, and you're right, the number of strikeouts, I think Brett Favre was, yes, he's a hero for all those passing records and touchdowns, and guess what? He was also the record holder of interceptions.
Yep.
And so, softball compacts it a lot. Speak to us, Dave, about the whole concept of failing faster. I heard an entrepreneur talking about how they put together a big business plan, 30-page business plan, seeking financing, spending money on a web page, then going out and marketing. Are they failing fast?
Well, obviously not.
What's the value of that?
Yeah,
is there?
Certainly there's a lot to be said for, quote, failing fast. And I think, to me, the biggest message out of that is because we don't like to admit failure. Okay, right. And because we don't like to admit failure, we will extend that failure beyond when it's actually been defined. Okay. And so failing fast means admitting to yourself that, and it's not necessarily the company, or it might be a particular strategy, idea, a feature, function, whatever the case may be. What you want to try to do is to identify, as quickly as you can, that it's not going to work, and then move on to something else. So what we mean by failing fast is by not investing, pouring good money after bad money. Okay.
Sure. There's some examples, and Dave's been with Intercom and Ernst & Young and
America First
Company, several others, MFS, and. Are there some examples along the way that you can show us of maybe where someone did fail fast and benefited from it?
Yeah, so...
there's many stories, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
Too many.
Yes. Well.
Put you on the spot here. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. There was a company that I had co-founded a technology company with a couple of friends of mine, and we rolled it into another telecom services company. And we had tried some different things within it, and within the strategy of where the then CEO wanted to take the company, and there was a little bit of difference of opinion on where that company should go, and because of that, we saw that it essentially needed to fail fast. So then we rolled our technology services company out of that company. Because of that.
Yeah, you actually disengaged from that one, and you had the vision to see where it was going. I mean, what helped you have the vision? What helped you have the background to make that decision?
Well, again, sometimes. Sometimes that vision isn't quite right. I remember I had invested in Yahoo early on, and I think I was up 4 or 5x, and I decided, wow, it's going to head south, and I need to get out, and I think it ended up going up another 20x. So I don't always, obviously, you evaluate the situation based on what facts you have in front of you at the time. We just evaluated the situation based on what we believed where the company needed to go, where we needed to focus our energy and resources, and that was just different than the CEO wanted to. So
well, and it's like you said. I think it's all the battle smarts, the streets, the scars, and the street smarts that you gain over the years. Well, tell us about some of the other startup things that you've been part of, or after. Where's LifeLink going? We'll leave one last question on them. And where are those companies going? Where do you see them headed?
So H3C is up and running. We've got a number of different clients. We're building our business. It's growing at a pretty rapid rate. We've hired, I think in Omaha, we've hired 60 to 70 people in Omaha.
Wow.
And we're going to just continue.
And how old is the company?
That company is a couple years old. Okay. And that's just going to continue to grow like a weed. It's a pretty exciting future for that company.
Yeah. Well, I like how you've targeted a really tight niche, and that's the one with the code that opened up, or did I get it mixed up?
H3C is where we do the outreach to the Medicare patients.
Right, and a new code allowed reimbursement for that.
Yes.
I mean, to have and I'm not an expert in the area, obviously, but the reimbursement in the healthcare community is tied to what's the ICD codes?
Yes.
And they created a new one allowing new reimbursement. And Dave and his team were wise enough to recognize that. Again, I go back to you in your lives, in your daily life. What can you see around you? You don't have to come up with something brand new, do you? You have to improve something that's already there. What can you see around you that is going to be an opportunity? I mean, what have you seen other examples of that out there in the marketplace where people just had an idea, just a small improvement on something else being already done?
Well, I mean, you can go down to 1 Million Cups or the Startup Collaborative, and there's a number of those examples.
Sure.
And quite frankly, a lot of these startup ideas are actually formulated. Somebody's an employee of a company, and they see a problem, and they look around for a solution to the problem, and it's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
So they make they make up their mind, well, heck, I'll go solve this problem.
Well, you go back yourself as a innovator way back. Tell about the spreadsheet thing that you saw company using.
Now you're dating me.
I didn't say what year.
Now the secret's going to be out about the
computer. Yeah,
yes.
You're right. Yeah.
So I was actually working at the time for America First Companies, run by Mike Yanni, just an amazing individual.
Yeah.
At the time, it was while it was a large company in terms of the assets we managed, it was a small company in terms of personnel. And I think we had about 40 people at the time, and we were using 3 different spreadsheet programs at the time.
Right.
Now I'm really going to date myself.
Yeah. Well,
we're using Excel.
Oh, you're going to name them, huh?
Lotus and SuperCalc.
Oh my!
And that was back before there's this interoperability between these software applications.
Right.
Well, I looked at it and I said, well, this doesn't make much sense. 40-person company, and we're using 3 different spreadsheet programs. So I standardized us on on a single spreadsheet program. But that was my first taste of process reengineering, and that's essentially what that was.
Okay.
And that's really what kind of formulated my path for moving forward.
Well, that's it. And again, what kinds of opportunities can you see? How can you help a company, your employer, do something better? What can you learn from that? Is there a potential business for you in something like that? What ideas do you have for people? How to put that innovator hat on? I mean, how can people look at the world more innovatively, if that's a word?
Well, I almost feel like it comes natural for some people to recognize that there's something wrong with the situation, and to think about what's a better way to do this. Whereas maybe some people aren't, they're fine with the situation.
Yeah.
Okay? So part of it is it might be ingrained in the personality.
Right.
But it's literally it is, to me, it's just as simple as that. You ask the questions, like I asked the doctor, what is the biggest challenge you face? And
that's a great question.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and that's even a good question for networking groups. You go to networking and people, and hold that thought, I'm going to get back to it.
Okay.
You go to a networking event and say, "Hi, I'm Paul," and hey, and then just start talking about yourself right away. And what about the idea of turning it back on the other person? I just love that question. What is the biggest challenge you face in your business?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you have a company you're launching out of that.
Exactly, and I think that's a pretty good approach. Like even in a sales strategy, obviously it needs to be a little bit more focused than it being as general as that. But in a sales strategy, you want to know what challenge your customer is facing, and so you can tailor your offering to those challenges.
Perfect, yeah. Well, that's great. Well, as we wind down here, Dave, this show, of course, is to inform and inspire wannabe entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, even people who have started their small business, getting them to the next level. What advice do you have for that young Dave, that younger Dave? A lot of advice. Yeah. I wish I could go back and change about 27 things.
Okay, so apparently we got a couple hours.
Couple
left.
hours, yeah. Go ahead. We'll make it an infomercial.
I think back to, I was listening to an interview. Jeff Bezos, radio interview. And this is back before Amazon got into everything else they've gotten into. It was back when Amazon was just about selling books.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm dating
90s,
myself again.
Yeah.
And the interviewer made the comment to Jeff about what an amazing idea he had come up with, how great the idea was to sell books over the internet. Yeah. And after the interviewer came to the end of his, lauding Jeff said, that wasn't such a great idea. Selling books has been happening since time immemorial.
Right.
And over the internet, the internet was something new, but it's not.
Right.
That wasn't overly genius. He said it's 97% effort, 3% idea. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think it's all about the idea. There have been the most amazing ideas ever conceived of that failed because they didn't understand or they didn't have the wherewithal or the know-how about how to execute on the idea.
That's exactly, you just said the key word. Because, for instance, if you talk about that, it made me think of Facebook was far from the first social media platform. They hit it at the right time for digital photography, and that helped boom it, of course. But there were several different ones that got a head start on them. But guess what? Facebook executed on all those things, made it happen. The others ran out of computer storage space, didn't have the staff to build the infrastructure. Facebook did, in fact, execute, and they got tied up with the right financiers and made it all happen.
Yes.
And so, as we wrap, any final thoughts? How do people find H3C or LifeLink Plus?
H3C is h3ci.com. And LifeLink Plus is lifelinkplusplus.com.
Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward, great. So reach out to Dave there at those locations, and we thank you for joining another episode of the Grow Your Biz Show. Please join us next week for another great interview. And please visit growmedia.com to learn about my upcoming books, mastermind groups, and other exciting things that are headed your way from a content and growth standpoint. Dave, thanks again for being here.
Paul, thanks for having me.
Hey, great to have you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
And see you next week.